What do you think you're doing? You're not here to steal my gold, are you? That's not very nice. Ever since I moved here, that's all you guys ever do. Knights, heroes, hobbits, dwarves, you all show up trying to take my hoard of treasure. I never used to mind. I mean, who doesn't like home food delivery? But I'm on a diet right now. My doctor says I have to lose weight, eat better. So now I only eat vegetarians and vegans. You know, health food. You're not a vegetarian or vegan, are you? I didn't think so. You know, instead of trying to steal my treasure, you could just build your own. Less risky, no chance of getting eaten. Start now and let the magic of compounding work for you. What is this compounding, you ask? Why, it's a secret of your financial life. It affects you in so many ways. It determines how successful you will be throughout your entire life. Let me explain it to you with a simplified example. Here is a magic penny. It doubles every day. So on day 1, you have 1 cent. On day 2, 2 cents. Day 3, it doubles again to 4 cents. Let's say it works for exactly 30 days. How much do you think you'll have after 10 days? 15 days? 30 days? So what would you have after 10 days? You would have $5.12. What, you don't look impressed? You're thinking $5.12 is not that much? You might be able to buy a fancy coffee? Remember, you started with just 1 penny. What about 15 days then? You're halfway to 30 days, and you would have $163.84. You could go buy a pair of fancy jeans, maybe a night out, dinner and a movie. So how much after 30 days? Over $5.3 million. If you don't believe me, check for yourself. Here is a breakdown of how much you would get each day. And here's a picture of what it looks like. Notice how slow it grows at the beginning and how quickly it grows at the end. That's the secret. The magic of compounding is exponential growth as opposed to linear growth. Linear growth is where something increases by the same amount or rate. So if you had a penny that grew by exactly 1 penny per day, that's linear growth. Every day you add exactly the same amount. On day 1, you have 1 penny. Day 2, 2 pennies. Day 3, 3 pennies. Day 10, 10 pennies. At the end of 30 days, you would have 30 pennies. But that's not what happened here. Here, each day you get an increase on the penny you started with and an increase on any increases you've gotten as well. So each day it grows a larger amount than the day before. On day 1, you have 1 penny. On day 2, you get another penny. On day 3, you get an increase on the starting penny and on the extra penny, so you get 2 new pennies instead of 1. On day 4, you have 4 pennies, so your increase is on the first penny and the 3 extra pennies, and so on. But this is just an example. There is no penny that doubles every day for 30 days. But it does exemplify, in an exaggerated manner, how compounding works. Compounding is exponential growth that is affected by 3 factors. What are the 3 factors you need for compounding growth, and how do they affect each other? First, you need the amount being increased. In my magic penny example, the amount being increased was 1 cent. That was the starting amount. Sometimes, depending on what we are compounding, the starting amount might go by different names. If we are compounding an amount being saved, it might be the principal. If we are compounding an amount you owe, it might be the balance owing. It does not matter what it is called, the compounding works the same. Second, you need the rate of increase. In the magic penny example, it was 100% each time there was an increase. But a magic penny doesn't really exist. You aren't going to find something that increases 100% each time. The rate is much less than that, much less. Also, we talk about increases in terms of years, not days. So think 30 years, not 30 days. And third, you need the number of times it increases. Here, it was every day for 30 days. Because we refer to the rate in terms of years, we express the number of times the amount is compounded in terms of how often it is compounded in 1 year. If it is compounded once a year, it is compounded annually. Every 6 months would be semi-annually or half-yearly. Other very common periods are monthly and daily. The frequency does make a difference. Remember, the more times it compounds, the larger the growth. So what does it mean if the rate is less than 100% and we're dealing with years, not days? Well, the amount being compounded will still double. It just takes longer. Is there a way to estimate this? Yes. The rule of 72 is a simple way to estimate how long something will double at a given rate. Divide 72 by that rate, and you get the number of years. That's an estimate on how long it takes to double something once. Let's pick 5% compounded once a year or annually. If you start with 1 penny, how long to double the penny once? 72 divided by 5 equals 14.4 years. Since we want $5.3 million, we have to double 30 times. This works out to only 432 years. If you have a larger rate like 10%, you double about every 7.2 years. So only 216 years, only a few centuries. That's pretty good, don't you think? Oh right, you don't live that long. Bummer. Well then, you have to learn the 3 principles of compounding and how to use them to your advantage. First, notice the higher the rate of increase each year, the faster you double the money. In other words, the higher the rate, the faster the money grows. The 10% rate doubles your money faster than the 5% rate. Second, the more times you let the money compound, the more it grows. And the biggest growth comes at the end, not the beginning. To get the biggest result, you have to let the amount compound longer. Third, and this is the one you critters with short lifespans need to pay attention to, you can increase the amount. You are not limited to a penny. That's just my example. You can start with any amount. The more you put in, the faster the amount grows. You can also add more money at any time. These 3 principles work together. They complement each other. And you can control how much you end up with by how you most effectively control these principles to your advantage. How rate works seems obvious. The higher the rate is, the greater the increase you get each time you compound. So the next time, you get even more. Let's look at 2 options. You start with $10 and you have 2 rates, 5 and 10%. The first time you compound, if it was 5%, you get another 50 cents, giving you $10.50. The second time you compound, it's on the $10.50, so you get 52.5 cents, giving you about $11.03. But at 10%, the first time you compound, you get an extra $1, giving you $11. The second time you compound, you get an extra $1.10. You end up with $12.10 after 2 times. The second principle is the most powerful and guaranteed. Time. Time is guaranteed. Time passes. The amount being compounded grows. The more time that passes, the more times you compound, so the more you get at the end. Here's a chart showing 5% compounding on $100. If you have $100 and put it away for 50 years at a rate of 5%, you would end up with $1,146.74. Notice the two different parts. The blue portion is how much you contributed. It stays the same throughout the whole 50 years. That was your $100. The orange portion is the growth through compounding. The difference between the two parts equals $1,046.74, which is all interest. But you needed the time. The more time you let something compound, the bigger the growth. The largest amount of growth happens at the end. At the beginning, it might appear as if very little is happening. But compounding is not limited to the starting amount. Take our first example with the magic penny that doubles. The amount on day 1 was 1 cent, day 2 2 cents, day 3 4 cents, and day 4 8 cents. What if I added 6 cents on day 2 so I had 8 cents instead of 2 cents? In effect, I skipped day 3 and jumped straight to the end of day 4. I no longer needed 30 days, I just need 28 days to get to over 5 million. If you can't increase the starting amount, you can add to it later to reach the same total faster. However, adding money earlier is better. The money you add also compounds, so the same principles apply. The longer it has to compound, the better. This means you can add less money. For example, by day 24, you would have had over $83,000. Adding 6 cents here wouldn't shorten the period by 1 or 2 days anymore. You would need to add another $83,000. The longer you take to add money, the more money you need to add to shorten for the same period of 1 or 2 days. The opposite is true. If you reduce the amount, it will take you longer. If you take out all the money, you'll never get to the final large total. Ideally, if you want to master compounding, you want to use all 3 principles to your advantage. Get the best rate you can for your situation, use time to your advantage, and control the amount being compounded. Higher rate, more time, higher amount being compounded, the greater the final total. Lower rate, less time, lower amount being compounded, the lower the final total. Ooh, I can see the greed in your eyes. You're thinking you now know it all. You're thinking of all the money you can make invested. Well, you weren't paying attention to me earlier. I guess you were too worried about being eaten. Compounding is the secret to everything, not just investing. It's similar to the law of gravity. Sometimes it helps you. Look, you're not flying off into space. Sometimes it hurts you. Look, you fell out of a plane without a parachute. The law of compounding is the same. Sometimes it helps you. Look, your income, savings, and investments are growing exponentially. Sometimes it hurts you. Look, your cost of living and debts are also growing exponentially. Understanding how compounding works is a good step. Now you need to understand those things in your life that it applies to, such as inflation, living expenses, savings, debt, income, and investing. These are the areas you need to master to create a financially resilient life. Financial independence means learning to balance all these things so your life can be as enjoyable as possible. But you know, that was a pretty long lesson. I'm getting a bit peckish, so I'm afraid it's time for a hero sandwich. Yes, I'm afraid that means you. What about my diet? Right, guess what? Today is cheat day.
Hello everyone. Sorry about that. I probably should have ended that sooner. But let that be a lesson to you. Crime doesn't pay. I do hope you enjoyed my first financial literacy video. Understanding compounding is what I consider foundation knowledge to financial literacy. For my first batch of videos, we're going to explore some more basic ideas. In the next 2 videos I will be releasing, also starring Winston, we'll look at another topic that I think everyone needs a basic understanding of: inflation. You need to understand inflation to properly prepare for it. But inflation is so complicated, I've decided to split it into two parts.